All right, so we are recording. Thank you everyone for joining us today for MIFA's online loan application demo. Here we go. We're going to do it this way. So your presenters today, Meg, who many of you know, is our Senior Associate of Loan Originations, and I am Jonathan Sparling, Associate Director of College Relations. So before we jump into the actual online loan application demo, just want to give you a brief background of MIFA. I know many of you are familiar with who we are, but for anyone that might be viewing this for the first time, want to provide this information to you. MIFA, not-for-profit state authority created in 1982, really helping families plan, save, and pay for college. We have a variety of loan opportunities available for undergraduate and graduate students, as well as an education refinancing loan. We pride ourselves on having low fixed interest rate loans. New this year, available to all U.S. students across the nation. So before, you used to have to be a Massachusetts resident attending a school outside of Massachusetts or someone coming to a Mass school. Now the loan is available to anyone in the United States. Multiple repayment options with the loan on both the undergrad and graduate level. As I mentioned, we also have an education refinance loan, fixed interest as well as variable interest rate loans for that. We recently introduced a 7-year option as well. So just giving our borrowers a little more chances to refinance on the back end once they do leave school. You know, in addition to the loan products and the refinance, we do a lot throughout the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, helping students and families stay on track with free college planning resources and information. So our website, MEFA.org, is a great place to go to get information, tools, and resources. We have folks here at MIFA that will answer any questions, a lot of different ways to contact us. We do these webinars obviously for our school-facing administrators and partners, but we also have a webinar series that we do specifically for students and families that will guide them through the college planning, saving, and financing process. So we really do pride ourselves on working closely with students and families to ensure that they are set up to make some good financial decisions and good college decisions when they reach that point. So a lot of different ways to stay connected with us. Social media obviously is a great way to follow us, stay connected on Facebook, follow us on Twitter and LinkedIn. We also have a number of videos available that talk about different topics around the college planning and education process, available right on youtube.com/MIFA. So a lot of different ways to stay connected with us, and a lot of opportunities to share this information with yourself and also with your students, families, and anyone that you might be working with. So that is the brief background of MIFA, which I know many of you are aware of. So I want to turn it over now to Meg, who I know many of you have worked with, and if you haven't, then I'm sure you will in the future. But Meg is going to walk us through the MIFA online loan application. And like I said earlier, if you have any questions, please feel free to send them through in the chat panel, and we will go from there. So I just want to ensure that everyone can see this screen that I pulled up, the loan application screen. So if you wouldn't mind just raising your hand or saying yes that you can see it, that would be great, and we will go ahead and move on. All right, looks like folks can see it, so I'll turn it over to Meg and we will go from there.
All right, great. Thanks, Jonathan. And I will keep my eye on the chat box, as Jonathan said. So please feel to just type any questions that you can think of, and we can take a little break and answer them. So this is the page that a borrower would come to once they click on Apply Now from the MIFA site. And we've done some work on this page to help make it clear to borrowers where they should go depending on what part of the application process they're at. So they can go to apply now if they're starting a new application. If they're finishing a saved application, they could go here. And if they're becoming a co-borrower, so in other words, if someone else has already started an application and they're coming in to do their part, they could go here. So with the feedback we've had so far is that this has been helpful and people know where to go, and there haven't been much questions about that. So down here, we give them the information that they'll need. I think you'll see as we go through it, it's very straightforward, the application. They should be able to do it in just a couple of minutes. Then they submit for credit. And then so with the MEFA loan, they don't apply for a specific repayment option up front. They go ahead and submit for credit review, and then we present them with the options that they qualify for, and then they would choose a repayment option. And then they would complete their loan documents, and then you guys would certify the loan, and we would send them funds to your school. So any questions before we jump in? I don't think so. So we'll go ahead. I'm going to log in just so you guys don't have to watch me do a bunch of data entry. So this is my test case. Sometimes in the test environment, it's a little slower than in production. It's very quick. The test account can be a little slow. So as this person is logging in, I'll mention that for return borrowers, they do have a username and password so that they can log in as I'm doing with this test account, which will mean that a lot of their demographic information will be saved. So that will make the application process even faster for them. And also on this page at any time, we always have our contact information and email address that we monitor all the time so they can reach us different ways for any questions that they may have. So bear with us as the test account. Of course, when you're doing a webinar, the test accounts, they can take a little bit of time, but I tested it right before we did this, and it was good. Okay, so here we go. And one of the reasons it's sort of slow is because this is a test account, this guy has a lot of test applications because we've been using it for various, testing efforts. This is a page, we call it the MEFA Loans page, and this would have any loans in progress for a borrower. So say they had, a couple of children, they were applying for multiple loans, they could see the status of each application. For most people in a given, year, they would, maybe have one or not have anything here. So if there weren't any existing loans, they would just go right into the application process, which we'll go ahead and do. So this is the very first question. We get a lot of questions from people, as I'm sure you guys do, about who's the, who's the student, who's the co-borrower, who's the primary borrower. So we give some information here. If they say that they're not a student, but they're a co-borrower, it says, as we always counsel, the MEFA loan is a family loan, so everyone will have the same rights and responsibilities, and anyone may make payments. However, we put it in bold here that you, the first co-borrower, will receive the billing statements and other loan-related notices. So we try to make it very clear. They want to know who's getting the bill, and we try to make it clear. On the flip side, if we say that there's a student, it says up to 3 borrowers are encouraged to apply. And again, all borrowers have the same rights and responsibility. Anyone may make payments. But to continue online, one of your co-borrowers, a parent or other creditworthy individual, must be designated as the primary borrower who will receive billing statements and other loan-related notices. And then if an undergrad student wants to apply without a co-borrower, they need to log out and call MEFA. We don't want undergrad students applying on their a loan online because a lot of them won't meet the credit and income requirements. So this way, if they call, we can counsel them and then take a phone application if they think they wouldn't meet those requirements. So we'll go ahead and continue. So again, this is what I was talking about. If because I had a account created, the name, the social, and some of this information is pre-filled, which is really helpful. It makes them very easy for them to just cruise through. But these are the fields they'd have to fill out if it was a new borrower. And as you can see, you know, it's very quick. And they always have the option to save and finish later as well. So they'd be given an application ID and they could come back in at a later point to finish. So then again, this information is pre-filled because I had a login, but if not, they would just have to put their address, state, country, zip code. And so then they are presented with the application and solicitation disclosure, and we try to be very transparent in our application process, you know, as to what the range of the rates will be, and then also for the various repayment options, what the total cost would be, you know, based on the highest possible starting rate. So this is one of 3 disclosures. This is just a, you know, generic disclosure based on the $10,000 loan amount and the highest possible starting interest rate. Once we go through the application, you'll see that they can, that they'll get an approval disclosure and then also a final disclosure that has numbers that are specific to their loan. So, and they can download this document, save it for their records, but in any event, they see it right here, and then they go on, they have to click a box here that they have read MEFA's Electronic Communications Agreement and our privacy policy. So then they get to the part where they'll choose a school. So they can put in a search word. And again, the test system. It's a little slow. Maybe I put in quite a generic search word. And again, just to point out, all through the application, they can always save and finish later. So that's a feature. And they can always go back and edit other sections. So here we are. We pick a school. We put in a loan amount. And the grade level, is, as you all know, you certify the loan with, you know, the grade level during the time of certification. But this grade level will determine the information that goes on the approval disclosure. And then, as you know, also you'll see the loan period they apply for on the certification. And they would put in their expected grad date. So this is where they'll put in, so we were filling out the application as the student, and each party has the ability to fill out the, you know, their portion of the application. So this is where they would put in who they want to be their co-borrower or their primary borrower. So, and these fields are required. So once they put in this information, this person will be emailed, sent an email saying, so-and-so has started a MEFA loan application. You've been designated as a co-borrower. Please go, you know, into this link and fill out your section. So they can do that. And then here they get to review everything they put in, and they have the ability to edit anything that, you know, looks incorrect. If they're happy with that, they would go ahead and hit continue. And then this is a lot of legal language related to electronic communication, you know, the fact that we're going to be sending them different things electronically. Also, you know, saying that what they've submitted is accurate. And then also saying that we're going to go out and check their credit report, and that the, you know, all the legal language. I'm looking what else is in here. Oh, that they can withdraw their consent to receive electronic communications at any time. So basically, this is a legal, you know, legal language to submit an application for credit. So once they submit, and that is new a couple years ago, that each party goes in on their own for privacy reasons. You know, it used to be a couple years ago that one person could submit the application on behalf of, you know, all the parties on the application. But for privacy reasons, we've changed it so that each party can go in on their own. So the student's done their part. So now we'll go ahead and go in as the co-borrower and link up the application. But I'm just checking the chat box. I don't see any questions yet. So you remember this screen. This is where we started. So we'll go ahead and we want to become a co-borrower. And if the co-borrower has a login, they can put that in as well. So and then they put in the application ID and the applicant's last name. And as I mentioned, the application ID, they would get an email with that application ID.
And Meg, if they didn't get an application ID, how would the student could log back in and find that ID and share it with them?
They could,
okay.
Certainly, but because that field is required in order for them to submit it, if they submitted it, they definitely get the email with the application ID. And you're right, if not, it would be associated with the account. So the student could always log back in and tell them exactly.
Perfect.
So then when the co-borrower logs in here, it's sort of the same information we saw up front. As a co-borrower, you'll be equally responsible. And then it links back to our website about if you want more information before agreeing to apply for the loan. So we'll say that they're agreeable. So, and then here's some, we think important information up here. Again, it's, we try to, again, keep it consistent throughout the application. The student borrower and all co-borrowers have the same rights and responsibilities. However, you, the first co-borrower, will receive billing statements and other loan-related notices. So this person is completing their section as a co-borrower because we just did the student section. So same things in terms of, a lot of the fields are pre-filled because I logged in. But again, this is pretty much all the information they need, relationship to student. Now here, as we know with the MEFA loans, there have to, in most situations, there's the student and one co-borrower. There could be a second co-borrower if that would strengthen the credit, or, both parents or whomever want it to be on. But for the sake of the demo, we'll just say we're just going to have the one co-borrower. So then these screens will look very familiar to the ones we just did, basically the address, exact same thing. And then, each party will view this solicitation disclosure. And once they check that they've reviewed the disclosure as well as the electronic consent and the privacy. So the borrower, because the student already put in the school, the borrower will see it. If they wanted to make any changes, specifically to the amount, maybe they said, the student doesn't need to borrow, this much, they'll change it. They could, but if they're good with it, they can continue. So now this is different for, we don't collect financial information for the student borrower, but we do collect financial information for the any co-borrowers. So we collect housing and what their rent or mortgage payment is, and then their employment status, how long they've been at their employer, what their monthly employment income is, and if they have other income, they could put that in. And then, so this is the same as we did for the student. We can just review everything we put in. If it's correct, we hit continue. And here's that same legal information about the fact that we're going to go out for credit. So now we're going out for credit on this application. The application doesn't go for credit until all parties have submitted their part. So hopefully if these test accounts behave, we'll get a successful credit submission here.
Now, Meg, let's say the borrower, the student, starts the application, the co-borrower goes in, or before that even happens. There's no, is there a timeout limit? So from the time that the borrower, start the application to the co-borrower,
does it expire?
Does it expire?
It does have an expiry date.
Okay.
I want to say off the top of my head, it might be 60 days or
but
a month.
That's a good amount.
So yeah, it's but that does happen. Oh, and I should mention that made me remember a good point, is that we send emails for all statuses of the application. So if that were to happen and the student starts it but the borrower never goes in, both the student and the borrower who's indicated would be receiving messages saying, please go in and do this, please go in and do it. If you don't do it, you're going to have to start a new application. So that was a good point to bring up. And we try to let the borrower know with emails all along the course of, the process, what's going on, to, cut back on any anxiety and phone calls and all of that. So our test
Excellent.
accounts went through, so that was good. So, you know, it says congratulations, and then, you know, it's been approved. Here are the next steps. So first we're going to select the repayment option, and then we'll need to e-sign our documents. And then any other borrowers on the loan would need to set up an account if they don't already have one, and then also e-sign documents. So this screen we think is very helpful. It basically gives them all the repayment options that they're eligible for, and then what the rate is, what the in-school payment would be, the after-school payment, and then also the total cost. So we think it's a very, you know, kind of just helpful, you know, straightforward grid that they can see if they, you know, for this amount of $25,000, if they do an immediate 10-year term, what the total cost would be versus if they do a deferred with co-release. You know, the rate's higher, they're deferring it, so it's accruing more interest, et cetera. And then, you know, interest only is kind of in the middle. So we'll go ahead, we'll pick immediate repay. This is somewhere else where we try to, you know, remind them what they're doing and when the repayment will start. Interest and payment and principal repayment begin on the 28th day of the month following the final disbursement. I'm sure some of you have had the, you know, borrowers come in, because we certainly hear it here. Oh, we chose the immediate repay, and we had no idea that we chose the immediate repay. We meant to pick the deferred. So we really do try to make it, you know, upfront that they have to actually confirm that this is what they're doing. And you know, the same thing would happen if they pick the deferred. It gives them a little, you know, information about how this would work. So we'll go ahead and pick the immediate repay. We say okay. Oh, I guess I didn't select it. Okay. And now we'll move into, we'll just give you a little bit of, you know, an overview of signing the documents. And I should have pointed out down here, if they get to this point, they can say, you know, they just don't want it, they're not interested, but they can also say they're not sure, and they will save the application and they can come back later. And that would be another example of, you know, we would start sending them emails like, your loan is approved, you know, please come in and select a repayment option, you have until this date. Okay, so this is, we call it the complete your loan documents page. It has these helpful little checkboxes for each, your steps, which is the person logged in, and then also for the co-borrower, what everyone needs to do to get this complete. And you can always view your you know, any loan documents that have already been created up here. So we'll go ahead and go through this, the steps to go through the e-sign, and we've condensed these a little bit, and people seem to get through this with no problem. So the first thing is reviewing the approval disclosure in the MEFA loan agreement. So as I mentioned earlier, this is the second disclosure, and, you know, again, to be very transparent, this has all the information about the loan versus the first one. This has the actual loan amount they put in, the interest rate they received, you know, what the finance charge is going to be and what the total payments would be. You know, and here it's broken down if it was like a deferred loan and it had different payments in and out of school, what that would be. So a lot of information there. We hope that they read it. They can also download it and save it for their records. And here's the approval disclosure that they'll have to sign. And they have all of this for their records. So here they could download it. They can always also log back into their account and get it. Consenting to terms. This is just saying that they've reviewed it and they acknowledge the information and they agree to be legally bound by it. And then consent to verify. Once they click this box, we're going to go out to the credit bureau, Experian, and get questions that they need to answer to prove who they say they are. So right now it's connecting with the Experian Test Bureau. And so it asks some questions, and I don't know the answers to these, but that's okay because it still gives you an idea of, you know, how the process works. According to your credit profile, you may have opened a home equity line. Please select the lender. And then, you know, you may have opened a student loan. Please select the lender. So conceivably, if you were this person, you'd know this information. So we asked them 4 questions. Which of the following is a previous employer? And who's your mortgage with? So it says right here, we're currently unable to verify because those weren't the correct answers. But if they'd been successful, this would just say, you know, congratulations, you've e-signed. When you hit continue, it goes right into the self-certification form. And they just can do this quickly online. And they review what they've put in. and they say they're happy with it. They hit continue. So we're on to the last step here. This is for servicing options. So if they want to get their privacy notice electronically, if they want to get their bills electronically, and if they want to get their tax form electronically. They can always update this information on servicing too. We don't get any questions about this really. I think people just select it and move on. So then this will bring us back to where we started. So it's saying here that I didn't complete this. If I had, there'd be a checkbox. I can request a paper copy to be mailed if I need it, and I could wet sign it if I don't want to try the e-sign again. And then the next part would be that the student borrower, Ricky, would have to log in and complete those exact same steps. So we'll just say finish later. And while we're waiting for it to go back, there it is. So here's the loan that we just created and what the status are. So the documents are ready to sign. So, this person could go back in and try to e-sign again. And then the student, Ricky, they can do their things, their e-signature steps as well. Again, they can always view the lender documents here if they want them for their records. So then once Ricky went in and did his steps, then this loan would would be ready for certification. And for those of you who certify on the portal, you would see it real time on the portal. So everything is real time. As soon as they've e-signed and everything's been received, it goes onto the portal and you would see it. So I believe that we'll have another.
Yeah, so we're gonna do a separate online MEFA online loan certification platform demo where we'll bring Meg back in and we'll kind of go through the online portal, just to answer any questions that you might have.
Perfect.
Yeah.
So and that's pretty much, so that concludes the application process. I know we kind of talked a little bit while we were doing it, but hopefully you can see how straightforward it is. And we have seen a lot of applications going through where just they sit down, they do it, and they sign their documents, and it's ready for the school certification right away. And then again, we notify them by email once, saying the loan is now ready for the school to certify. And then once the school certifies, we'd say, your loan is now approved for disbursement and will be sent on the following dates. So any questions?
So I'm going to take everyone off mute. We have a small crew. So, but any questions that came up throughout, or anything that we didn't cover on the online loan application that you were hoping we would have? You can feel free to chat now or send through the question page. All right. Well, thank you, Meg.
Thank you.
Appreciate the time, and thank you all for joining us today. We have our contact information up there. Meg or myself also listed our general college planning at MEFA.org, as well as our 800 number to call us if you have any questions. As I mentioned earlier, we do these webinars for our college administrator partners. We also do them for our students and families. So, we try to get our information out there as much as possible. I'll just do a quick plug. If you are involved in the U plan at your particular college or university, we will have a webinar coming up on the 29th of July about that. So be on the lookout for information related to that. And then as Meg and I mentioned earlier, probably sometime in the August timeframe, we'll put another webinar together that goes through the online loan certification platform. Just as a refresher for anyone, or if it's the first time you're getting on, we'll go there. So we will remain on the line for a little bit longer. I'm going to stop the recording. Thank you again, Meg.
Thank you.
And thank you all for joining us today.